What's going on, great people? We are live. Terrell Harris here. What's going on with my focus? All right, we got Brooke on the side, off camera, and for those who don't know, there she
Hi.
go. Brooke and Terrell Harris. We are pastors of the upcoming church plant, the Open Box, which will be launching September 18th, 2016. Super excited about that. If you're interested in learning more about it, contact me directly. You can reach out to me on Twitter at Mr. Terrell Harris, or you can email us directly at info. You can email us directly at info@theopenbox.com, and I'll be excited and glad to tell you about everything we're doing. So, how's everything? You good? You good over there? You good? Okay. So we're gonna get into it. Today's topic is how to reach your potential with a mindset adjustment. So let me get closer to the mic because it seems like it's going to be pretty noisy in Wegmans this evening. I came across this book. Sorry, I came across this book entitled "Mindset: The New Psychology of Success." It's by the author by the name of Carol Dweck. And I've been watching a lot of her interviews, and I decided to get the book. So here's a trick: if you want to get a free audio book, what you could do is sign up for Audible. They'll give you 2 free audio downloads, and then you just have to cancel within 30 days. So I plan to take advantage of that, with another book as well. And I was able to listen to the book. Maybe it's probably like a 6 or 7 hour book. Well, actually, it's more like an 8 hour book. And I was able to listen to the book maybe in like 5 hours, mainly because with Audible you can skip ahead. So I was able to listen to it in like two or triple speed the time. So it sounds like chipmunks, but if you listen fast enough, you could actually get a lot of good points. So I wanted to share that with you this evening because ultimately our mindset is what will prevent us or push us to reaching our full potential. So last week we talked about our mindset and if our mind was associated with our healing. So I think this is a good connection because more than just healing, our mindset affects how we tackle goals, go after success, and perceive challenges. So we'll just get into what the difference is between a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. So those are the two concepts that Carol deals with. And basically, a fixed mindset is a thought or mindset that is set or fixed in a specific point in time. So some of the characteristics of a fixed mindset are, or people with a fixed mindset have these particular characteristics. Um, People with a fixed mindset feel that they can't do it, whatever the goal is. They feel that if they do try something or step outside the box, that they may look stupid. They feel that they will fail. Feelings of rejection are often tied to this individual's self-worth. So if they've been rejected in the past, that will prevent them from growing or reaching their full potential. People with a fixed mindset like to play it safe. And the worst thing for individuals with a fixed mindset is that um, they have a fear of trying, mainly because they're scared to fail or they don't just like the way failure feels. So as it relates to a growth mindset, people with a growth mindset um, or people that have thoughts around having a growth mindset, that is, they're always in a continual growth process, and they're always thinking about stuff as it relates to their mind and their challenges as continuous process improvement. So some of their characteristics are basically their thought process. Everyone can change and grow. They always think how they can make improvements in whatever they do. They don't label themselves in a negative fashion. They don't overestimate their abilities because they're always open to feedback and they and process improvement. Um, for people with growth mindsets, setbacks become learning lessons. Um, some people will end up doing what seems to be impossible because people with a growth mindset like to take on challenges, and if they fail, they'll just take their failures and try to learn from them to make their failures into a success. And people with a growth mindset also study to learn while remaining positive. So the interesting concept with having a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, because some of us are actually operating in both lanes, or some of us are solely focused on having a fixed mindset, just because of the way we were brought up and the way we were raised. So let's get into some reflection questions as it relates to having a fixed and growth mindset. You good over there? Okay. So the first question I had was, how was and how is your current environment? Does it focus a growth or a fixed mindset?
What?
So your current
How?
environment,
Yeah.
how is it? Does it foster a growth or a fixed mindset?
Oh, okay. Which environment?
Um, when I say environment, so it could be work, it could be. I'm asking this as a general question, but it could be work, school, home, um, anyone you want to choose to talk about,
Um,
or just your surroundings, like.
but it varies.
Yeah.
Like I
Okay.
feel like depending on where I am,
Uh-huh.
that environment can be different. So if I am at work, that might be different
Okay.
than when I'm with like my family or
Yeah.
when I'm whatever. Like so I think at work at times there's fixed
Hmm.
mindsets because we're all doing the things that we're used to doing the things we're told to do,
Hmm.
and we don't veer too much from that. And like we'll get like recently we've gotten word that we're gonna have to do something new at work.
Hmm.
Not really new, but more like structured.
Uh-huh.
But it's not like it came from us, and if we can like do anything, like it came up and it's going down to us,
Hmm.
and so we have to do that thing.
Hmm.
So I think that can be more fixed. Um, I know with my own personal growth,
Hmm.
that's more of a growth mindset. As I've realized about myself, in business, I've been too fixed mindset,
Okay.
so I'm like all over the place.
So yeah, depending where you're, and that's what they
Yeah.
said. Like the book initially starts off separating the two, but then she points out that some individuals operate in both depending on their environment.
Yeah.
So follow-up questions for this is, does your environment, whichever environment you choose to speak about, does it reward things like good grades, perfection, and excellence?
Um. Well, maybe.
Okay.
Like I think work environments sometimes do, but the
Yeah.
only reason why I said maybe is because sometimes those environments don't. Like even though they're fixed,
Mhm.
they still don't reward you.
They don't reward anything.
Right. They reward you by giving you that salary.
Yeah.
Like that's your reward.
So there's another book I read too. We won't get into it. With we talk. It talks about rewards and um, basically the whole idea about how people are motivated. Um, but it's interesting because throughout the course of the book, she deals with Carol is dealing with students. She's really driving home how to parent your children in these environments. And basically, what she's saying is that environments that only reward grades and performance and excellence are more fixed, because ultimately there's a goal. Like, so there's let's just say there's a goal to get an A. There's never a goal to make improvements or reward the process of getting an A, because sometimes parents or school systems are set for grades only. So when you don't reward process, you don't teach the individual that the process of learning is more important than this grade getting. So what happens is, in these environments, what she explains is that children or teens, maybe even young adults, as they're in college, they study to be able to repeat or to memorize instead of actually studying to learn. And ultimately,
Isn't
there's
that the U.S. educational system?
basically, but ultimately there's no reward in that, and because the reward, because you're rewarding a grade, I think ultimately the motivation goes away. Either that or you don't learn anything.
Mhm.
Um,
I have a story.
Go ahead. Yeah.
So when I was when I was in school, I was in school a few times, but one of the times I was in school, I was in a class, and I really liked the class.
Mm-hmm.
This was actually in my MSW program, so I really liked the class. The teacher, she was not very personable at all, but I was still learning a lot in that class. And she was a person who was like, I am not rewarding bad behavior.
Yeah.
In a sense. So if you get this grade on the test, on the paper, or whatever, that is your grade. There's no curve.
Mm-hmm.
There ain't gonna be no extra credit, like nothing, right? So she had this exam, and the exam wasn't like multiple choice. It was one of those like essay exams, I think, if I remember correctly. And like half the class failed, myself included.
Okay.
Right? And I was like, what? I was really surprised because, like I said, I really liked the class.
Yeah.
And I went to her, and I was normally way more passive growing like up, not as a like young adult, not like growing up, but maybe both, to where I wouldn't really do anything like that. But I was really like, no, I want to learn. So I went to her, not because I wanted to persuade this woman to increase my grade. I wanted to say why I chose what I chose,
Yeah.
but I also wanted to learn how I could do better.
Yeah.
So forget the fact that, now mind you, I did end up getting a higher grade. So I was very happy that I advocated for myself, but I actually went there to learn. And there were people in the class who failed and was like, oh, I don't want to take this class. I want to drop it.
Yeah.
You know, all that. And I was like, I don't want to drop it. I want to know because she's serious about her work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want. I want to be better.
Yeah.
So how can I figure out from her, what did I do? What could I improve on in this thing? And how can I learn to do this better and to think about this differently? And so she walked me through it. And so I spent like, was it 20, 30 minutes with her going over this so I could understand and think about this thing in newer ways. And so for me, I mean, I still, like I said, I got my grade higher, but it really wasn't about the grade because I think I ended up getting like a C- or C+. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah.
That ain't good. I'm used to higher grades. I didn't care. I was like, how can, like, I want to be better. I want to learn this. And so I think that's my example of like process that I still made the outcome good, but that process was important for me in that moment.
Okay. So just to catch you up, we are talking about a book entitled Mindset, The New Psychology of Success by Carol Dweck. So the basic concept in this book is that she talks about two mindsets, a fixed mindset and a growth mindset, and basically how a fixed mindset will prevent you from reaching your potential, because it's individuals who have a fixed mindset don't like the way failure feels. They feel that they may look stupid, or they don't necessarily like the rejection. And people with a growth mindset are always in a realm of process improvement, taking feedback to try to increase where they're pretty much at. So we were just talking about the environments that may foster a fixed or a growth mindset. So just to give you a story that I have too is, I was trying to, for me, the reason that this is important because I was trying to figure out why I'm so competitive in certain areas and how other individuals may not be as competitive or may just be kind of in a place where they're super comfortable. And what I realized is, so as it relates to grades for me, with my grandmother, I used to show my grandmother my report card, and I'll get like an 80, 85, and she'd be like, so, all right, why you didn't get a 90? And I get like a 90, and she'd be like, that's okay. Well, like, you can't do better than that. So she would always push me. So it wasn't necessarily that I was focusing on grades, but I mean, at a certain point, for me, I think it would have been almost close to impossible to get 100 in all classes. But it was always like, all right, I'm gonna try to do better to, try to, not just please my grandmother, but also to become a little bit smarter. And then I also remember, as it relates to playing sports, I got my father to coach one of my basketball teams. I think it was the first team I played on. I was like either 13 or 14, and he benched me. So I remember, I remember going home, trying to put my mom against him, crying like, Dad, bench me and stuff like that. And he was like, oh, you're not good enough. So at that point, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna work hard so he can never bench me again. And from that point on, he couldn't bench me because I got pretty good. But I never, in thinking about it, even with my mom, they never told me anything I wanted to try, they kind of encouraged it and said, "I just go ahead and go for it." So they never discouraged me from doing anything. They've never said, that's kind of crazy. Why are you going to do this? Um, they kind of just let the environment was pretty set up for me to challenge myself the way I wanted to challenge myself, and I get positive feedback and stuff throughout the process. So I think my environment, not I didn't know this at the time, but my environment was set up for me to go after whatever I decided to as it relates to challenges, careers, sports, and stuff like that. So I appreciate my mom and dad. Ma, if you're watching, good job. For setting up the environment to allow me not to be fixed in my thought process. Um, so there's another thing. Do you have anything? Okay. Another thing that they said that makes a fixed environment, especially in schools, are stereotypes. So I always used to hear that women or young ladies are not good in math. So they say when young ladies approach these situations or hear this, then their mind already becomes fixed and to the point that I'll never be good in math because the school system or the environments are telling them they can't be good. So if you live in an environment or you find yourself in an environment that pushes stereotypes, ultimately that can lead to a fixed mindset because you can't see anything outside of that.
That makes sense. That's surprising to me. I mean, I didn't experience that in school. I love math. I mean, I was like, ooh, calculus. I did. I love math. Don't ask me to calculate. Don't even ask me to add now. I will not do it without a calculator. But back then, I love me some calculus and pre-calc and all
Yeah,
that.
I heard that all the time. Like girls weren't good at math.
Math and science.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
The boys' subjects in English is
And it's interesting how she breaks down the things with kids. They were like oftentimes um, young boys and men and teens will have a growth mindset because they're more used to being contradicted by each other, being challenged by each other, and then the environment, school environments actually push boys to be competitive and stuff like that. So they say oftentimes, young men won't have a fixed environment. Oh, my mom says yes, she's watching Smooches. So I don't watch. um,
Gotcha.
so here's a follow up question as I check the time. What do you all believe about failure? Like, what are your thoughts about failure and failing? You like it?
No. However, I've come to learn, and I do get it now. Because, like I said, and there are some cases where I'm very growth, and other cases where I'm fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I'm learning that failure is a lesson. Like it's not like it's the end all be all. It's not the end of the world, but it's there to teach you,
Mm-hmm.
and so you can actually grow from it if you look at it that way and allow yourself to do so.
Yep.
it's definitely necessary. Failing is necessary. It's not easy or fun,
Yeah.
but
I think one of the things I can say is, and um, yeah, one of the things I can say is that for me, as it relates to some things like business and entrepreneurship, maybe something, not as much stuff with the open box anymore because we're taking a huge risk. I used to take calculated risk. So the risk where, all right, if I fail, it's not going to hurt that much. But, or if I fail, I still got, something to lean back on. But I think ultimately, if you want to be super successful, you have to be willing to fail hard because ultimately that's where your most powerful lessons are going to come. Now, I'm not saying to do anything super crazy, but just realize if you are not willing to risk failure or the feeling of failure, you'll be stuck where you are currently. All right, so what do we have here? The next question is, so how do you get to a growth mindset? Any thoughts before I dive into my notes? What do you think? What do you think will help people get to a growth mindset?
I think
Mm-hmm.
being open to learn, being self-reflective. That's all I got.
Okay. You got anything?
no, you can go ahead. I've actually read this book before.
Oh,
So,
you have?
yeah.
Okay.
Did you like it?
It was a major book in college.
Okay, so you know. All right, so for me, one of the things that pops up is, and I'll just read this verbatim, is recognize at some point in time that a fixed mindset served a purpose. It protected individuals from failure. It made them feel secure. It protected self-esteem. But if you want to grow and reach your full potential, you must learn to take a risk. And for us as spiritual leaders, I think that's important because even as it relates to faith, and like I said, we had a discussion about mind and how that plays into our healing. We're going to have to recognize if a person is willing to grow or if they're just kind of stuck in a place in time, which will ultimately impact how they view their purpose, how they view the world, and how they actually view their abilities. This is why I think this is going to be a major book for me. It's going to help me understand how people think and actually how to probably coach them out of that particular situation. One of the points is you have to remember that a key point in time doesn't determine how smart you will be, or it won't determine your ability. So just because I'm 39, right? I always forget. Just because I'm 39 and I have certain education now, that doesn't mean that I'm not going to be smarter than I am currently in the next 5 years. Just because I ran a 5-hour marathon, that doesn't mean I won't run a 4:30 marathon. So things like that. You have to remember that
5 hours.
yeah, it actually was like
You can do it in 5 hours.
yeah, I actually got slower. So it was like 5:05, then 5:15, and then like 5:20 or something like that. So I'm going the wrong direction. but but I have to keep in perspective that if I first I have to have the feedback loop, which is I need to train more, because let's be real about it, I didn't train that much last year. So I have to train, take that feedback, and be willing to take the risk to try to run it in 4:30, which is still a long period of time, right? So that's the main points for that. But I do have some reflection questions for individuals who may be in
I wanted
this.
to add something.
Yeah.
One of the things from what you said it had me thinking about is also looking at your environment and who's in your environment.
Yeah.
Because I know she's saying like take a risk and all this stuff, but if you're used to being around certain people who might be more fixed mindset or more negative or something, that can influence you, and it might be really challenging to kind of get out of that if you don't really look at who your influences are.
Yeah. No, I agree totally. So now that we set up the characteristics of fixed and growth, and we gave you some thoughts, this is a question basically set up to kind of measure every thought process you have. And the question is, think about where you want to go and whether or not your mindset will take you there. So when you think about a goal, when you think about your purpose, when you think about a task, just think about whether or not your thought about that task or your thought about the process and even failure around that task is going to take you there or prevent you from getting there, right? And some of the questions you could ask yourself in that thought process is, are you here to learn? When does learning stop? Again, how do you view failure? Do you see challenges as hard or fun? Do others or does someone else's success, how does someone else's success make you feel? How can you create more learning experiences for yourself? And how do you feel about working harder and extra effort? So once again, if you're trying to get out of this fixed mindset, if you're trying to grow, trying to take a little bit of risk, those are some things you could ask yourself. And what I'll do is I'll post this on theopenbox.com along with the video so you can see the notes. And that's all I got. Right? So just as a reminder, September 18th, we'll get it started. We need people. We need like 35 more people within the next 2 to 3 months. So what I need you to do is be on the lookout. We're going to have some social events. We're going to be doing some potlucks and stuff like that. So just to get to know each other. And then, we'll discuss some of the vision and some of the things that we'll be doing with the open box. And Well, also within the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll have our full structured plan for what we will be doing as it relates to our worship experience. And that is it. You can find us at theopenbox.com. Email us at info@theopenbox.com. I'm at Mr. Terrell Harris. She's at Landa Brooke. She's at loco_Joko. And that is all. Peace.